What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the TCG Empire YouTube channel. Today we are taking a look at Miraidon EX once again. Now today, with 151 being legal finally as of this past Friday, we're going to be taking a look at the Miraidon list that came first place at the Yokohama tournament. And I believe this tournament had 3,102 players. So this list is going to be incorporating cards from 151, and we're going to just talk about them for a quick second. I'm going to make a quick announcement, and then we'll get right into the gameplay. So, Miraidon EX, as you guys know, is an incredible card, has the Tandem Unit ability. Once during your turn, you can search for 2 basic Lightning-type Pokemon, and this means that you can search out another Miraidon in order to keep the chain going. So, it does have the Photon Blaster attack, which does come in handy sometimes if you need to hit 220. During your next turn, it can't attack. Now, being paired with that, we do have Raikou. Raikou with Fleet-Footed allows you to draw a card if it's in the active spot, and this does stack as well. If you switch into another Raikou, you can keep drawing. And for Lightning Rondo, it does 20 plus 20, capping you out at 220 damage. And then for the new cards from 151, we do have Zapdos EX. Zapdos EX is something that Miraidon has been missing. It is a bench sitter that threatens KOs on the bench if your opponent isn't playing Manaphy, but also it has the ability to be a free retreater that actually has good attacks. So with the Voltic Float, this Pokemon has any lightning energy attached to it, has no retreat cost. And then for 3 lightning, it does 120 and then 90 to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon that has any damage. And in order to damage the bench, we do have Hawlucha. It just gives you the chance to kind of deal some good damage. And against things like Gardevoir, if they don't have Manaphy out, having that 90 snipe, as they most likely will already have damage on them, means that you can put extreme pressure on. And it does have 200 HP, it is a basic, so you can actually use things like the Bravery Charm on it in order to buff the numbers. Also, from 151, we are running Mew EX. The reason why we have Mew EX in here is because of the restart ability. Once during your turn, you may draw cards until you have 3 cards in hand. It's pretty good when it comes down to thinning your hand with things like Ultra Ball, but then also giving you the ability to recover better from Iono. And if you don't have a path to the peak out, it's phenomenal. You also have the ability to use genome hacking. If you are going against something like a Giratina V-Star, you don't have a way to actually one-shot it. So what you can do is power up a Mew with 2 Flaaffys and an attached return, and you can use genome hacking. You can swing on the Giratina for 280, KOing it, lost zoning 2 energy, but due to the nature of the deck and playing 13 energy, you are pretty good. Yeah, some of the other things in here, we do have Raichu, again, just for big hitters, in case, you don't want to use genome hacking. And then you also have Flaaffy Dynamotor. Once during your turn, you can attach a lightning energy. So, pretty similar to what we've looked at the past weeks. But if you guys want the full deck list, it'll be popping up right now, just so you guys have a full clean view. And in the description as well, we also have the list, so that way you guys can copy and paste it into Pokemon Trading Card Game Live. And with that being said, I want to thank you guys for all of the support. We were able to unlock memberships, so if you guys do want to become a member of the channel, get a cool little badge, get some, privileges that other viewers that aren't members might not get. There's a link down below if you guys want to join the channel as members. And also know that with having members now, I am streaming on the weekends when I'm able to. Either Saturday or Sunday, we'll stream for a couple hours, get some games in, some testing, all that fun stuff. But with that being said, if you guys do enjoy today's video, do me a favor, smash the like button, subscribe, turn on post notifications, and if you enjoy this video, share it with a friend. Let me know down below what you guys think of the new text that Miraidon EX has to play with from 151. But with that being said, thank you guys for everything, and I'll catch you in the gameplay. Later. Alrighty, guys, getting into the very first game with the brand new Miraidon EX list. Hopefully we can pull off, everything that we want to. Considering the fact that I am playing Flaaffy, I'm gonna go first. If we are forced to go second in any situation with these games today, then we do have the ability to kind of set up how we need to. And our start isn't looking too bad. We have access to Fleet-Footed. We have access to Collapse Stadium and Path if we need to. Depending on what my opponent's playing, we can play the Path to the Peak. But what I'm really hoping for is a Miraidon, and then we'll go off of there. So my opponent is playing... because they're playing a Lucha, I'm going to assume that they're playing some form of Lost Box. So in this matchup, we're actually going to very well need the Zapdos. So we do get the 4 Seal Stones. 4 Seal Stone isn't bad at all. We can use the Star Alchemy. Star Alchemy will allow us to grab... let's go through the deck real quick. So we do have 3 energy prized, which is good to keep in mind. We have the collapsed in hand. No generators prized. No escape ropes prized. 3 Ultra Balls good. We do have a boss's orders prized. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Raikou, no. Mareep, okay. So the only thing that's prized is 3 energy and a couple other things. But it's not too bad. The Zapdos is prized, which is a little bit annoying, but again, it's not too bad. Raichu, so if we go first, we can use this attack. That means that we can accelerate some more energy onto the board. Oh, I'm smart. Zapdos is in here. So we can grab Miraidon and Mareep. I think I'm only going to need 1 Flaaffy this game. So I think we'll be okay with that. And then what we can do... Let's see. I can go Raikou. Hope Generator hits on the Raichu. And then start to accelerate to the board. Which I don't hate. But at the same time, Raichu's not going to be too needed. My opponent does have access to their own Raikou and things like that, so I'm going to hold off right now. So what we'll do here, we'll use the Fleet-Footed, and we'll grab the Zapdos along with... let's grab the... I think I'm just going to grab Zapdos right now. Or I could go for double Flaaffy, which I don't hate, or I could get Raikou, but then I have multiple attackers. We'll just go to the Zapdos right now. Because my opponent's probably not playing boss, so we're okay. Then we can use the generator, and we do hit 2, which is fantastic, which means that we can accelerate to this Zapdos. And then we can attach, and... just to make sure that my opponent can't do very much, we could play Collapse Stadium, which would limit their bench, which means that if they want to get down Manaphy, they can get Manaphy and then a couple Comfy, and then they actually have to deal with the Collapsed if they want to do more, so I don't hate that either. So, pass here, and then next turn we're looking pretty good. We have access to Ionos, and then... we do have access to the multi-shot lightning, so. My opponent is playing Iono, so this makes me think that they are playing Giratina. Oh, okay. Alright, so this is completely different now. So my opponent is actually playing their own Miraidon EX list. So us being able to attack first is great. The only thing we have to be worried about is the fact that Zapdos does have weakness, so that's something to keep in mind, but considering we have the boss's orders and really anything else, we can also get rid of this Mareep. We do hit 120, so we could actually take 2 prizes here and then go into 2 with the Miraidon. Not looking too awkward here. Zapdos is definitely going to be good next turn, and we actually have access to the double generators, and we have access to the Flaaffy, so we're looking pretty good. We can hard retreat, attach Flaaffy, use the double generators to set up, and we can actually boss his orders up the Hawlucha if we wanted to. And my opponent's just going into the Raikou. Thankfully, with the Collapse Stadium, there's not too much my opponent can do because they can only hit 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, 180 at most. So there's the 160. Let's see. So the first thing we'll do is use the Flaaffy, and then we'll use Generator, And we actually might be able to just set up a Miraidon here to take a knockout, which I don't hate. And then the following turn, we can actually get 2 more prizes with the Mareep and the Hawlucha, which I don't hate either. So we'll attach, we'll go generator. We do hit the generator again, which is good. And then we can just attach, retreat, hit 220. My opponent's probably not going to be able to set up a Miraidon, and if they do, we can set up another one. So I actually don't hate this too much. We'll use the fleet-footed just to draw 1. We do get research, which is good, so that means that we have access to a draw supporter if we need one. So what we can do here is just retreat, go into the Miraidon, and then we'll use the Dynamotor. We can go here, which means next turn, if this Miraidon gets KO'd for whatever reason, then we can actually promote Zapdos, and then Flaaffy, hopefully attach, and then have the free retreat due to the Voltic Float. And we even have access to Mew if we need it. We can't set Mew up in 1 turn, but it's not too bad. So we'll hit the 220. Just checking the audio here. We'll take 2 prizes, getting us a Miraidon and a Lightning. So since we have the Lightning in hand, this does open up the ability to power up a Miraidon in a single turn. And with Boss's Orders, we can bring up this Miraidon as well. And as long as we can actually, pivot between 2 Miraidons, we should be okay. So, definitely not looking too bad. There's the Mew EX. Now, my opponent isn't going to be able to power up a Mew EX, simply put, because the electric generator only attaches to lightning-type Pokemon, so I'm not going to be able to do too much here. We'll probably use Miraidon to KO the Mew anyways. Or we can use the Raikou just to sack a prize and go from there, but definitely not looking terrible. And there is another Raikou coming down. And if we can find something along the lines too of like Collapse Stadium is putting in work because it limits the damage output for Raikou, but it's also damaging us. At least with this, we still can one-shot a Mew, but we might have to find the path to the peak, which will still shut my opponent down because then they can't use the tandem unit, they can't use the fleet-footed, and then they can't use restart with Mew, so it's definitely something to keep in mind. And my opponent actually has access to this Mew now because of Raihan. So they can attach with Raihan, and then attach for turn, and then also use Dynamotor, but they are going to be going for the Raikou. Again, Raikou's not going to be able to do too much. They can't one-shot, and they played a supporter for turn now, so... But they will be able to draw off of the Raikou. And there's Escape Rope. Let's see. I'll promote this Miraidon because I can already, retreat. And my opponent is just going to go for a fleet-footed into Lightning Rondo for 180. So we'll be able to bring up this Miraidon, hit for 2, and then go from there. And then we can also try and potentially set up the Mew as well. My opponent could take 4 prizes if they brought up Zapdos. They could actually copy Zapdos's attack, hit 120 and take 90. But Mew actually doesn't hit weakness, so it'd only be 2 prizes anyways. So, and there's the Lightning Rondo for 180. Limiting my opponent because of Collapse Stadium. Now we actually have 2 energy in hand, so not looking too bad. I'm trying to think if there's anything that I want to potentially KO this turn. I don't think so. I think I'm safe to not use the boss's orders just yet. We can go for a knockout on the Raikou, and then my opponent still has to find a lot in order to set up. So we'll attach just to save 1 energy. Promote this Miraidon. We can use the Dynamotor. Dynamotor, go to the Miraidon, and then we have back-to-back Miraidons, or, you know, if my opponent puts something in the active like a 1-prizer, then we have access to Zapdos, so... Hitting with the Miraidon here. Now if my opponent has something like another Raihan, again, they can power up the Mew, and speaking of Mew, that was one of the last prizes that I couldn't quite figure out. But my opponent could Iono here. It wouldn't be too bad. It would just be kind of awkward because, you know, we don't have an energy in the discard, so... But I think my opponent's in a bit of an awkward spot here. And I think next turn, just to showcase the use of Zapdos, we'll probably KO the Flaaffy and then KO the Hawlucha, because we do 120 and then 90 to a bench Pokemon that has any damage counters on it. So if we can find something like the Hawlucha. Otherwise, we'll probably just retreat and go into 2 prizes. My opponent playing Research, getting rid of that pretty Scarlet and Violet reverse holo energy. And honestly, this is just how the Miraidon mirror goes. It's really whoever gets the momentum first. And there's Drapion coming down. Drapion not going to be able to do too much, but they do gain access to the Forest Seal Stone. My opponent already attached Return and used Dynamotor though, so they could find a retreating option, which allows them to actually set up... So yeah, it's not looking too bad. My opponent played a supporter for turn, so if my opponent really brings up anything, if they bring up a 1-prizer, we just need to try and find the Hawlucha and, you know, counter our own stadium. Then we can actually take 2 prizes. So my opponent whiffs on the generator. Thankfully, Mew does have free retreat, so they can actually retreat into what they want to. But again... this is kind of how the Miraidon mirror goes. So, my opponent does retreat. So what we'll probably do here is just full send the Research, hopefully find Path, and a way to get Hawlucha. I don't think Hawlucha is prized, so... And then we can go there. We can go Flaaffy, retreat, so... That's probably the best way that we can do this. We don't find a counter stadium, though. Which is, you know, a bit unfortunate. Not the end of the world, though. We could retreat, just go into Raikou. Take a knockout here. I don't really think that there's too much that my opponent can do. So, Bravery Charm. Just for fun, we'll Bravery Charm the Zapdos, putting it to 250. It's going to get KO'd regardless, but it means that Zapdos can't be KO'd. By, you know, something like Drapion, if my opponent powered it up enough and put something on it in some world where my opponent played a Vitality Band or something. So we'll just attach here. We'll use the Electric Generator just to potentially see, and there are the Path to the Peaks that we were looking for. So assuming my opponent takes a knockout next turn, we do have the ability to win the game with Zapdos. So... we'll just go here. We'll go switch into the Raikou. We use the Fleet-footed. And unfortunately, we don't draw a counter stadium. If we did then we could have, you know, done the Raichu play. We'll just go for the Lightning Rondo here for 180. And Collapse Stadium really showing, you know, why it's super good against these decks that revolve around doing 20 plus 20, or, you know, things like Palkia. Palkia and Raikou tend to focus on, you know, big benches and punishing your opponent for, you know, playing the game basically and setting up. But with cards like Collapse Stadium, being able to nullify 2 bench spots, 1 on each side, that means that that's 40 damage that you're not having to deal with, so... And considering we're at 6 prizes, I don't think there's going to be really anything that my opponent can do at this point. Miraidon can KO Miraidon. Zapdos can KO Hawlucha if we find our own Hawlucha. There's no like big mon that my opponent can put down. The only thing they could potentially do is Bravery Charm the Miraidon, which would be a bit annoying, but that's really it. Again, if we do, we actually can win next turn because my opponent will take the knockout here, and then we can go Ultra Ball for Hawlucha, ping their Hawlucha, and then use Zapdos. 90 to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon that has any damage counters on it. So there's the boss's orders. My opponent figuring out what to bring up, and they go for Miraidon, so they can KO Miraidon with their own Miraidon. It's not really going to do too much though. Again, we have access to a Miraidon here, but just for the showcase of, you know, showing what Zapdos can do, we're probably going to go for the knockout next turn with Zapdos. So, and my opponent plays down Mareep. Again, not going to do too much. My opponent is going to be able to take 2 prizes though, so it won't be a clean 6-0, but definitely something that, you know, is good. I think what my opponent was trying to do here was trying to, you know, potentially set up their own Zapdos, that way they could take 4 prizes in a single turn. But it probably wasn't going to work out the best for them, so we'll go Zapdos. And then we will Ultra Ball away the Nest Ball and the Flaaffy, grabbing us the Hawlucha. Hawlucha can go for the ping. We can ping onto Mareep and Hawlucha, attach the energy, and then use Zapdos. So, pretty good setup there. Kind of did everything that we needed to do. So that was game number 1. Let's hop right into a game number 2 and see if we can do the same exact thing. Alrighty, guys, into game number 2 here. We're going to see if we can try and do the same exact thing that we did in number 1. So we are going to go first, and hopefully, you know, we can see Miraidon, see anything else that we may need. We do have access to Ultra Ball, which does give us the Miraidon. We do have Electric Generator as well. So not looking too bad, and depending on what we play against, we also have the Collapse Stadium, which, as we know, in the mirror match was very critical for the last game. So starting Mareep here, it saves us a Searcher as well. So definitely not too bad. And it seems like we're playing against United Wings. So let's see. Path to the Peak is going to be something that is crucial, simply put, because it does allow us to kind of put a nullification on Squawkabilly. Now my opponent can counter the stadium, but it means that they have to risk finding it. So we'll get rid of the Iono here. And I think Path to the Peak is going to be more valuable for me here. So we'll take a look at what's prized really quick. So we have 2 Flaaffy. We do have a Mareep prized. We have both Raikou. So far just a Mareep. And then we have a Research prized. We have a Boss prized. We have an Ultra Ball prized. No Generator prized. We have a Path to the Peak prized. And we have 1 Energy prize. So not looking too bad as far as what's prized. So we can go into Miraidon. We're not going to need Raichu. Zapdos could be good, as Zapdos can actually take some prizes if my opponent doesn't play down Manaphy. So I think we'll hold the Zapdos for right now, though. Grab the Miraidon, and we'll grab Raikou. And then, actually, to continue the setup, we'll actually grab the Zapdos, because then it'll force my opponent to place down that Manaphy, and then we'll be in a good spot. So I'm thinking we just grab Raikou and Zapdos. And then we can Generator, attach, retreat, use that fleet-footed. We do get 2 energy as well. My opponent's most likely not going to be able to hit 200, but just in case, we will attach 1 each energy to Raikou, and then we can attach, retreat, just so that way we have some energy, you know, kind of split up, go for fleet-footed here. Getting Hawlucha, not going to do too much, and then we'll play the Path, so my opponent can't use the Squawkabilly. So we are going to be playing 1 prizers, but thankfully it's not going to be too bad, especially with having Bravery Charm. It does give us the ability to not be in one-shot range with something like any of the United Wings cards. My opponent's actually playing Path to the Peak in their own list. So thankfully, we do have the ability to actually, you know, turn off their Squawk ability rather than them try and, you know, set up anything else. So there is the Flamigo. Flamigo's going to allow my opponent to grab 3 more Flamigo. If they only grab 2, we know one's prized. So there is 2. So Flamigo lets you grab 3. So we do know that one's prized unless they have it in their hand already. There's the 2 Flamigo down. And there's the Manaphy. So Manaphy, going to be a bit annoying, but we do have ways to kind of deal with it. It does force, you know, an extra bench space down that my opponent wastes, so not too bad. And there's the Mareep. My opponent going for the United Wings. Again, not terrible, as it means that, you know, we can KO this Ditto, put ourselves in a good spot, and my opponent has to attach a DTE in order to swing this Flamigo. So we do get Arven. I don't think Arven is really going to grab us too much, though, because we can grab a tool. We could grab the Forest Seal Stone, as well as an item, which means that we can grab a Flaaffy. Forest Seal Stone can grab us the energy, and then we can attack. So not looking too bad. Considering my opponent has 2 cards, we'll go for the Arven. So we can grab the Forest Seal Stone, and then we can also grab... considering the other Mareep is prized, we'll probably just go into a generator just to start to fill up the bench. So we'll go generator, that way it's 1 less energy that we have to look for. We'll attach to the Raikou, and we could actually attach retreat, but it's not looking too bad. Again, we have access to Iono, so here, you know, we can just grab the energy in order to attack with the Raikou, and my opponent's going to have a hard time trying to hit these numbers, so it's not looking too bad. My opponent's only doing 60, and if they attack with Flamigo, it's going to be minus 20, so right now they're only hitting for 40, and we do get another lightning energy, so whatever is promoted, we can retreat, except for the Zapdos. Zapdos does have that 2 retreat. So it can be a little bit annoying, but my opponent, you know, chooses to get rid of the stadium for some reason. Play something like a Pokestop will be okay. My opponent's best bet would be a way to, you know, boss up the Zapdos. Opponent going to be able to draw a fresh 5 here. And it's not looking too hot for my opponent. The awkward thing about United Wings is that you know, that energy that you play is going to make you do minus 20 depending on what you have to attack with. So, my opponent grabbing that Watchful. So they're either going to discard it or they have a way to, you know, KO the Zapdos next turn. But either way, it's not too bad. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I need to do before I play something like Iono. Don't think so, so we'll just attach to the Miraidon, play Iono. It does give my opponent an extra card, but you know, it's not too bad. Let's see. I think what I'm going to do is Bravery Charm the Zapdos, just because it means that my opponent can't one-shot it with Watchful without having 7 in the discard, so... And then from here, I don't think there's anything that we need to Nest Ball for. We can just check, though. We have the Squawk, we have the Lucha, we have Mew. Nothing really here that I need. So I think what we'll do is just keep kind of building our board. We use Lightning Rondo for 280. If my opponent decides to, you know, swing with a Watch Roll, they do have to use a DTE as well, which does minus 20. So there's some actual... you know, big math that my opponent has to kind of mess around with when it comes to trying to KO the Zapdos. My opponent going Crushing Hammer, hitting heads. Either way, we have the energy in hand, so getting the energy off of the Miraidon. I'm not too sure why they did that. I mean, we can continue to KO, and they probably want that, so that way they can keep building their United Wings. So there's the Collapse Stadium, getting rid of that path, which means that we do have access to draw a couple cards off of Fleet-Footed. We do have the free retreat now with Zapdos. So there is Level Ball. Grabbing a Murkrow. And my opponent going to be able to use that United Wings, going to be able to deal 80 damage. But at this point, we are going to be ahead on prizes. And we do have access to research as well, which does open up more for us. So not looking too bad. I'm going to research here. I think what we'll do first is attach to the Zapdos, and then we'll go Super Rod. Super Rod can shuffle us back in the Mareep. We'll put back one energy. I'll keep one in the discard. And then we can go research, getting us the boss's orders, as well as bravery charm, as well as really anything else that we could ask for. So we can attach, and then what we can do, we can actually play escape rope, which means that my opponent would be forced to bring up a Ditto or the Manaphy, which means that the United Wings attack isn't being pumped. So I don't hate that. We'll use the electric generator. Just kind of set up the board some more, going with the Miraidon. And then we can go escape rope. I should have used Fleet-Footed on this first Raikou, but all is well. So we'll go into Raikou. We can use the Fleet-Footed, drawing us one, getting a Nest Ball. I could burn a switch, but just in case my opponent promotes or bosses up something, I want to make sure that I can switch out of it. So we'll hit 160, putting another Ditto in the discard. And having 250 HP, the max that United Wings can pop out at is 240. So there's no way that this Raikou is going to be KO'd. Unless my opponent plays something like Vitality Band, then perhaps. But having one Murkrow on the board, it means that you don't have to worry about too much. My opponent discarding again to draw, getting rid of the Watch, Roll the Squawk, and the Collapse Stadium. Collapse Stadium being a really good card, as it means that you can get rid of more of your United Wings Pokemon. So there's United Wings again. And we do draw Escape Rope, so I'm thinking what we do here is KO the Manaphy, and then that way next turn we can try to potentially set up something like the Zapdos if my opponent doesn't have a way to get it back. So we can draw. We do get the Flaaffy, but with no bench space open, we're not going to be able to. Since we have Escape Rope, we'll burn the switch just to look at one more card. So there's the Fleet-Footed, getting us the Lightning Energy, which means we can go here. We can go Boss's Orders into the Manaphy. Again, not fueling my opponent's loss zone, which means we can go for the attack, hitting 320. And now, next turn, I think... Did we use our... Yeah, we did. So we won't be able to take a knockout on anything on the bench, but what we do gain the ability to do is not power up the loss, or not the loss zone, but the discard more. And right now, my opponent is hitting for 100 damage, so they will be able to KO the Raikou, but considering that we have a Raikou here, my opponent's just a couple of turns behind, so it's not going to work out too well for them. And we do actually have Path to the Peak as well, so... Now my opponent can take a knockout, but they are one turn behind. It's going to be a bit awkward for them. And even so, we can bench the Mareep. Can use the Fleet-Footed to draw an extra card. Getting Raichu. Raichu not going to be able to do too much for us. Let's see. I'm going to attach to the Zapdos. And if my opponent plays something like Escape Rope, we'll be okay. Either way, we have the Escape Rope if this Miraidon gets brought up for whatever reason. And then we can hit 280, take a prize card here. Getting the other Mareep. And it kind of just goes to show how Miraidon is. You know, you hit such big damage. You can two-shot things, you can one-shot things. If you one-shot things, it's a lot easier. but things like Bravery Charm does make life a lot easier in terms of what we're trying to do. So my opponent going for the Ultra Ball, grabbing a Ditto, and considering our board, we have the ability to kind of power up anything if we need to. We have this Miraidon that we can attach to, as well as Flaaffy, providing that we draw an energy. And the Zapdos is going to be able to hit 120, so even if my opponent played something like a Bravery Charm on the Murkrow, wouldn't bump them up to a high enough HP that they wouldn't be KO'd. So game is pretty much sealed up here. And as my opponent takes their last two prizes, there's not too much that they're going to be able to do in order to, dwindle us down. My opponent does hit heads, which could be annoying, but we do have the Flaaffy. My opponent hits multiple crushing hammers. Then we're in a bit of trouble, but again, we have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 energy, so we should still have 4 energy. I don't know why that math was so hard for me to do, but and there's the United Wings attack taking the knockout, meaning that what we can do now is promote the Miraidon. We draw a Miraidon, which isn't going to matter. We can go into the Flaaffy, and even if we wanted to, just to showcase it, what we'll do is Nest Ball. We'll grab the Mew, just to show you guys the aspects of Mew as well, because we didn't really get to use it. What we do gain the ability to do is actually potentially draw a couple more cards, just in case, we needed to hit an energy. And then we can, I'm trying to think if there's anything else that we need to do. Nope, we'll just use the restart for 2. And then we gain access to Raihan. Again, not trying to BM my opponent, just wanting to more showcase the abilities of, having Mew in the deck. And then we can grab the energy. The energy means that we can attach, which means that we can use the Photon Blaster. So with Mew, adding some consistency, no real matchups that we need it for, but as I said in the intro, sometimes you just need it for Giratina, or if you run into something awkward. But as always, I want to thank you guys for watching today's video. If you did enjoy it, do me a favor, smash the like button, subscribe, turn on post notifications. Otherwise, with that being said, I will catch you guys in tomorrow's video. Later.